What's the funniest way you have fricked up a date? I offered to pay for the bill. She insisted to pay half. Didn't fight it, but only had a large bill, so I pocketed her money and put my bill in. Anyway, long story short, I did the math wrong and stole $20 from her. She sarcastically said thank you and I thought she was being sincere. That's the funniest thing I read all day. Thank you. We order a small snack for our coffee and as it's arriving at the table he pulls out his Nokia phone. Trying to make a light-hearted joke I say, man, that has got to be the oldest phone I've seen in a while. I really dug it in, trying to break that friendly wall. Well, turns out it's not a Nokia, it was his insulin pump. You should have doubled down. Man, that has got to be the oldest insulin pump I've seen in a while. When I was about 20 or so, I got a date with a girl who I really liked. She was exactly my type and couldn't believe my luck. We met in a local pub for a few drinks and things were great. I was getting all the good signs with lots of hand touching and the like. An hour of pure bliss went by and I needed a pee. After washing my hands I went to the hand dryer and it didn't work and looked like part of the protective grill was hanging from it. I wanted to dry my hands because I wanted more of the hand-holdy stuff. In the single most stupidly brain fart moment of my life, I thought I can fix this and put my hand inside the nozzle of the dryer. Why? Why the frick? Obviously I got buzzed by the electric heating element, fell back and cracked my head on the wall. I didn't get knocked out but needed a few minutes to sort my crap out before going back. I didn't have the balls to tell her what had happened. Brain fart number 2. I had a banging headache and I wasn't quite right. Not much later she made her excuses and left and turned me down when I asked her for a second date. A year or so later I found out she had told her friend that she really liked me, but I went to the toilet and when I came out I was acting really weird and she wasn't up for dating someone on drugs. Hand dryers. Not even once. We were sitting on my couch watching a movie and she moves closer and closer until she is on my lap. As a joke I start to tickle her and then she starts to tickle me back and then it turns into play wrestling. Right before things switch from play wrestling to making out, we both slip off of the couch and my reflexes kick in so I accidentally move in a way that puts her below me. She slams her head into the hardwood floor. She laughs it off but it killed the mood and we went back to watching the movie. That's one way to slam a girl. This was in high school. She invited me to her house to have dinner with her family, and I didn't know them very well yet. The conversation turned to names we thought were old-fashioned and ugly sounding. We all threw out a few like Gertrude, Bertha, and Eugene, and then I said something like, "At least that one's not as bad as Deborah." I used my ugly voice and everything. Her mom's name is Deborah. Her grandmother was also at the table with us. We've been married for almost 7 years. I went on a date with a girl I met in an online chat room to see King Kong at the cinema. I was in my young teens and the ending absolutely shattered me, even though I knew it was coming. I cried. Not a lot, but a couple tears. She noticed and asked incredulously if I was crying. I just nodded and without saying anything further she got up and left. Never returned any of my messages after that. Should have told her that you used to have a gorilla. My first night in Buenos Aires. I'm in a nightclub buying a drink. I hand the bartender local note equivalent in value to about $20. He's saying something in Spanish I don't understand. But I'm thinking one drink can't cost more than $20, so what's his problem? This incredibly smartly dressed, beautiful woman intervenes. She explains the barman is asking if I have a smaller note because he doesn't have change. No problem. We get to talking. I tell her it's my first night in the city. She says, "Oh, you must let me show you around town tomorrow." She puts her business card on the bar and pushes it towards me. It has her name, her number and the fact that she is an English language teacher. So in what I think is an incredibly witty, flirtatious comeback I push the card back towards her and say, "Oh, I don't know. My English is already pretty good." She scoops the card back, says fine and walks away. I remember think, oh well. At least no one saw that. Then I turned around and my friend is right behind me shaking his like what a loser. When I told that story to some Argentinians I met later in that trip, they said not to worry. The woman had probably been a con artist or prostitute targeting foreign tourists. I'm pretty average looking and she was definitely way out of my league. You lucked out. I have volatile allergies. My nose may have started bleeding during a New Year's kiss with a beautiful girl I met that night. It may have gotten in her mouth by the time we noticed. And I guess she maybe ran to the bathroom and threw up. Please don't look at me. Can't say I relate with bleeding into a girl's mouth. But volatile allergies are nasty stuff. Nothing like wiping your nose and seeing the blood and being like crap. Not again. I was 16 and on a movie date. Went to do that move where you stretch your arms then put it back down around her shoulder. Instead I just elbowed her in the face. I think most girls enjoy it more when you're obvious about it and just do it instead of pretending you're stretching. Cause no one falls for that crap. I drove a Volvo from the 60s. The fuel line and filter would get clogged occasionally. On a first date, I pick her up. As we're heading to dinner, the car dies. I pop the hood, knock out the crud in the filter and then have to suck on the fuel line to get it flowing again. I wasn't fast enough and end up with gasoline in my mouth and on my shirt. She was understanding, but needless to say she wasn't impressed with the Techron mouthwash cologne. IDK man, I'm a dude and my panties would be on the floor after seeing that. Granted I do enjoy fixing cars. My auntie, yes, my auntie, set up a date for me. I am half Asian and half European. So when I visited my family in Asia they wanted me to date and probably marry this chick because she comes from a rich family. So we met at a restaurant and she brought her brother. He brought his girlfriend. I went there with a cousin. He thought it was hilarious. We introduce each other but it's loud and they mumble so I don't understand their names. I decide not to ask them all for their names. Didn't want to be rude. So I talk to this chick and she is educated and good looking as well. I start to think, hey, that wasn't a bad idea. I actually like her and we seem to be on the same wavelength. I start to flirt with her and she seems to like it. Then suddenly the brother says something and they just leave without saying anything. I am totally confused. Turns out I was flirting with the brother's girlfriend the whole time and I never even looked at the girl I was supposed to date except when we introduced each other. Yikes. I didn't frick up the date. The date was just fricked. Met a girl at the local McDonald's after school one day when I was 15. We talked and then exchanged numbers. She asked if I'd go out with her the next day. I thought she was gorgeous. And when she said I should dress up I expected something special. She took me to her grandma's funeral. Got hit by a car walking to her apartment. I bounced off the windshield and was thrown across the intersection. Probably because I was in shock. And in retrospect the driver was drunk. We didn't call the police. Instead, I limped to the girl's apartment. When she answered the door, she was dressed to the nines and ready for a big night. But I had to tell her I couldn't go out because I'd just been hit by a car and probably should go to the hospital. She looked at me like, now I've heard every excuse in the book. I never dated her again and now I'm pretty sure she's a lesbian. What the heck? That worked in Back to the Future. Technically wasn't a date, because we just went out as friends but it functioned as one. It was a girl I worked with. I'd been interested in her for a while but we were just friends and that was fine. Still, we hung out a lot and eventually one night we got drinks after work and things escalated. I'll spare you those details. Fast forward to later that night. We're both asleep at her place. Now, I hadn't been sleeping well all that week partially because of her dragging me out with her. And when I'm sleep deprived, I have very strange dreams and am prone to sleepwalking talking. In my dream I'm walking down this tunnel, like a metro tunnel. I see this girl on the ground crying. She's got no clothes. I ask her what's wrong and she lunges at me. She was a zombie or something. She wraps her corpse arms around me and I throw her off and start yelling. That's what I was seeing. I was fighting for my life. What had actually happened outside of the dream was she tried to cuddle with me and I responded by freaking out and literally throwing her out of the bed. She screamed and that partially woke me up but I'm still mostly in the dream. She asks me what's wrong and I just start yelling things. Who are you? Where's your clothes? Get away from me. I woke up fully as she was storming out of the room. She thought I was trying to be a prick, I suppose. If I had a gun at that moment, I would have shot myself. No joke, I felt awful. I thought I blew it. Once I went out and explained what happened she thought it was hilarious and came back. She still gives me crap for it, though. This would have been a perfect romantic comedy until you ruined it by explaining yourself immediately after the trademark misunderstanding. I flirted with a cute bank teller 4 weeks before working up the nerve to ask her out. Didn't realize she was super religious. Invited her to a Mexican restaurant and ordered 2 margaritas. When she told me she doesn't drink, I said that's okay. These are UHH. These are both for me. She told me I wasn't Christian enough for her and I agreed. And there I sat, drinking 2 margaritas alone. You had Mexican food and 2 margaritas and didn't have to listen to her preach to you. Sounds like you came out on top. This girl's father had just recently passed away, so I invited her over to make her dinner and console her. We make dinner and we are talking about stand-up comedians and she tells me she's never seen Louis CK. So I say we need to watch one of his stand-ups. Well, I turn on one randomly and the first 25 minutes are dead dad parent jokes. I feel like you should probably have switched to something else after the first minute or 2 of dead dad parent jokes. My friend took a girl to McDonald's, classy, and ordered food for himself. Didn't even ask her if she was hungry. Then she was just watching him eat. There was that story which was told many times. We were trying to decide where we wanted to eat and I suggested Panda Express. She hesitated before saying no. Then I suggested Asian buffet. Once again no. I got bold and said Benihana. She told me to take her home. She told me later she thought I was being racist because she was half Chinese. I didn't even notice. I only saw her black dad and assumed her mom was Hispanic or something. I ended up getting KFC. My first Valentine's date in college, this guy asked me out to dinner but didn't drive. So when I picked him up, he said you're wearing jeans with a look of disdain. Then he told me we needed to go somewhere cheap because he couldn't contribute much to the meal. I ended up paying. So I guess I fricked that date up by letting him get in my car. Apparently, the date was a formal event. She showed up in a white dress. I showed up in a Star Wars t-shirt. It sucked to be 16. Crap dude, I'm 20 and still go on dates in my Star Wars t-shirts. No frick up there, just a stand-up guy rocking his fandom. I had a first date at a sushi restaurant bar with a guy from OkCupid. He was hilarious and was making me laugh a lot, so it was going really well. I jokingly tried to tap his nose with my chopsticks, but misaimed and jammed them up his nose, full of hot sauce. D. At least he could breathe well for the rest of the night. D. I once organized what I thought would be a really cool date to an authentic German food restaurant, with fancy German beer and everything. Turns out it was the first day of Oktoberfest. The place totally packed full of drunk Germans and there was a DJ playing some way too loud German something or another music. I didn't even know there was a German immigrant community where I live. My partner was not amused by this. Dude, that sounds like an awesome first date. I hit on the waitress. I didn't know it was a date. I just thought we were friends going out for dinner. My friend set us up, and they both thought it was a date. Neither of them has talked to me since then, which was around 2003. I'm not good with social cues. If it looks like it could be a date, treat it like one, and if it doesn't work, it'll not work naturally. One time before a date, maybe due to slight nerves, I had one of those nervous type shoots that was very loose and a total B to wipe up. Every time I saw clean paper another tiny turtle's head would creep out. Anyway, I ended up over wiping somewhat and turned my starfish a bit red. Fast forward a couple of hours and there I am at a fairground with the hottest girl I'd ever dated. I was punching above my weight a bit but she was into me, or seemed it, and we'd been hanging out for a few weeks casually. This was the first time we'd officially dated. She decided she wanted to go onto this spinning cylinder from heck. Literally just a cylinder that spun around so fast you stuck to the walls. Well, once the contraption reached full velocity I began to feel my briefs riding rather violently up my crack and it was agony. I'd obviously been far too rough earlier that evening in an attempt to rid myself of every last winnet and was now paying the price. It felt like someone was forcing a rusty cheese wire between my cheeks. I was so relieved when the ride stopped. It wasn't long after that we went back to the car. I was driving her back to her place and couldn't believe my luck when she said, how about I just come and crash at your place? Whoa. So an hour or so later, after much light fondling, there we are in my bedroom stripping down. I will never forget the look on her face as I peeled off my white briefs to reveal a gusset of red and brown skid marks, the likes of which I'd never before witnessed. It was hideous. Understandably, she recoiled and made the decision that she would rather have a lift home after all, as she just remembered she had a dance class in the morning. It was an awkward drive, I can tell you. TLDR. Wiped my ass too hard, went on the wrong fairground ride and displayed my epic blood-infused skid marks to a horrified date. Dark underwear are always your friend. Took her out to Italian because she said she had never had Italian food from Venezuela. Asked me to order for her. I order carbonara. She starts eating it, asks me if it has milk in it, and then runs to the bathroom because it turns out she's lactose intolerant. So I poisoned her. Then I take her home, and the minute she gets there she finds out that her pet ferret isn't conscious anymore, and she decides she needs to go to the vet and that I need to come with her. Okay, fine. We get on the subway with a semi-awake ferret, which, it turns out, is the one animal people universally hate. So strangers are telling us how vile ferrets are. She's crying. I'm just sitting there trying to figure out when this first date will end. We get to the vet. They take a quick look at the ferret and take us into this room with soft lighting, nice furniture, art on the walls and tissue boxes. We're in the bad news room. They say the ferret needs to die and it's going to cost $500. I think that's stupid, and I turn to her and say we could do it for less, and then I say 2 words: Viking funeral. That was my actual reaction. I detail to her my plan to put her beloved ferret in a box, douse it in gasoline, put it out on a river and light it on fire. She paid the $500. Don't know why she didn't go for your idea. That's exactly how I'm planning to go out. This is actually my brother's fricked update. He asked a beautiful girl to the movies. They arrive a few minutes early. Instead of going in immediately, he leans up against his truck to chat with her a bit. He's telling her a story and casually spinning his keys around his finger when he accidentally flings the keys into the bushes. They spend the next 30 minutes looking for his keys and they almost miss the movie. Few minutes early. Spend the next 30 minutes looking for his keys. Almost miss the movie. Super early for a movie, haha. Called a girl named Rebecca Rachel multiple times. It wasn't in reference to anyone. She just looked like she'd be named Rachel. We're still friends. I still call her Rachel sometimes just to tick her off. I met a really sweet dude through a mutual friend, but other than his name, I didn't know anything about him. We met for drinks and talked about ourselves. He asked about my family, and I told him a funny anecdote about my dad. At the end of the story, he just said, "Wow, that's nice. I wish I had a dad." I laughed, mistaking this increasingly deep cry for help as some weird, dark humor. Turns out, his dad walked out on his mom and other siblings when he was really young. It's a pretty touchy subject, and I laughed in his face about it. After he didn't laugh with me, it got real awkward. I feel like the biggest butthole, and I wish I knew why I just did that. We had one more date, but it was pretty clear we weren't going to work out. We're casual friends and laugh about it now. A first date is a pretty weird time to brain dump all your abandonment issues, so I probably would have assumed it was a dark joke too. Apparently it was bad date etiquette to wear shorts and sandals to her first date, mini golfing, when it was 95 degrees out. Not exactly a date, but I'm walking this girl I know to her house and it starts raining. Somehow the conversation takes a total 180 and she says, "I've never kissed a guy in the rain before." My dumb butt, not picking up this extremely obvious signal, responds with, "Ha, neither have I." Then said goodnight and went home. Months later, lying in bed one night, it finally hits me and I realize how retarded I am. Yes, regrettably I must advise that you are, in fact, retarded. She invited me up to her place, got us each a glass of wine and then took her pants off, at which point I assumed she was going to bed, said goodnight and left. You dense mother, haha. Not exactly a date, but there was a girl in my class I tried hitting on. and it turned out she was married. Then it turned out she didn't even realize I was hitting on her. Then she actually gave me advice on how to ask a girl out without sounding like an idiot. Oh man, am I too late for this thread? I monumentally messed up and have the story to go with it. I was visiting a friend out of town and I had met a girl at a club who was very interested in me. She asked me to dance. She offered to buy me drinks. And she offered to exchange numbers. She was very excited to talk to me and we texted lots for about a week and she even drove the 2 hours to come visit me. The only stipulation for her visiting me was that I choose the date. I picked a hike in the mountains. She's thrilled with this idea. She parks her car at my place and we take my car up the mountain and embark on the hike. It's a 6-mile hike, so it's pretty long, but she's cool with it because she's rather active. Anyway, about halfway through we run into some hikers going the opposite direction who told us that there was a rattlesnake on the trail to watch out for. She nervously asks if we should turn back, and I say nah confidently as I pick up a sharp stick and take the opportunity to go arm in arm with her. So we go about half a mile with her grasping my arm when I'm like okay, the snake must have taken off and chucked my stick. About 10 minutes later we're going over a log that fell into the path when I hear that signature rattle. Now, this could have gone several directions. The direction I chose, however, was to squeal goddang as loud as I could and take off down the trail. While throwing my arms up, I had inadvertently thrown my date off her balance and she fell to the ground in front of a rattlesnake. While I took off 30 yards into the distance, after the initial adrenaline rush, I had realized what I had done and trotted back to my date. The snake had slithered away, but what I had done was worse than any snake bite. The rest of the hike was done in complete silence. I tried making small talk, but she wasn't having it. I drove her back to her car, asked if I could do anything. She slammed my door, got in her car and took off. She never spoke to me again. I bet she never spoke to you again. You did the opposite of protecting her. Somewhere at a biological level, she knew that you would chuck your future children together at a bear to get away yourself. We were watching Suicide Squad. We're making out and I said wait Batman's in this part, gimme a sec. It was more funny than anything. TBH, if the other person doesn't find that just funny and go along with it, then they're not the one. Not actually a date here. Last December I went to a party organized by a friend. There, I met a girl I had a crush on. Since I am very shy, I got drunk before trying to ask her out for once. I got so drunk that I forgot to do that. Luckily, in the end she asked me out. The dialogue was something along the lines of, "Hey, Alex, I see. It's been a while since I know you and I am really into you. Do you want to hang out me and you alone sometimes?" Double quote. Oh yeah, that'd be cool, but where the frick is my friend? He has my dang weed. And then I walked away to find my weed. Never heard from her again. I'll be the first one to say that I'm terrible on picking up on cues, but she basically laid it out for you to spank, lol. Met a girl and chatted with her for far too long before actually meeting her in person. Got really comfortable, I guess. First date was late at night and we sat at a park and stared at the stars. All romantical and crap. I started talking about poop and pooping. Apparently could have kissed her that night, but I just wanted to talk about poop. Ended up marrying her though, so all in all it was pretty rad. So I'd been chatting to a girl named Nadia on Tinder for a week or so and we had organized to go on a date next Thursday. We were both pretty busy and that was the only night we were both free. The weekend comes around and I meet a girl at a party. Frankie, the girl at the party, and I hit it off straight away and we play some beer pong, talk and generally just have a good time. I walked her home and we set a date for Tuesday. Tuesday comes around and we have a great time. Met for coffee late evening, went for a walk around the city and got dinner. She says that her flatmate won't be home until later and invites me back to her flat for a movie, and after the first half of Guardians of the Galaxy, we get to bumping nasties. I go to the kitchen to get a drink and, being home alone, I decide that just wearing my pants, underwear for Americans, will be fine. So I'm at the sink, gulping down water in my pants when I hear a rattle. It's not coming from Frankie's room. It's coming from the front door. I panicked, turned to face the front door, and as it opened, I vaguely recognized the girl's face. Turns out Nadia and Frankie lived together. TL. DR. Organize date with Tinder girl. Go to party and meet different girl. Go on date with different girl. Smash with different girl. Tinder girl walks in on me in my pants. Never tell me the odds. Never kissed a woman before. Date was going well. My charm was 10 out of 10. On the walk home she puts herself in a corner, pulls my tie and starts to French me. I respond by transferring all the spit from my mouth into hers at once. I wasn't ready for that level of kiss and she called me disgusting and stormed off. It's all good though. 2 weeks later I was transferring all of the spit from my mouth into her birthing cabins. Everything worked out. The ending was new at what I expected. I asked a cute girl out who worked at the grocery store near my place once for coffee. I wasn't even thinking, but I wore my Montreal Canadiens sweater to the coffee shop and it turned out she was a huge Vancouver Canucks fan, which is understandable since I live in Vancouver. But I guess she took my superior team personally because I didn't see her again after that. During our coffee she also ranted about how much her and her dad loved the Vancouver Canucks and couldn't understand why I didn't like them too. Not me, but my boyfriend has a tendency to make really romantic gestures, but always make really big mistakes with them. There are 2 really big examples I have of this. 1. He was going away to college. We have been dating for a very long time, and he surprised me with tickets to go see a local production of Avenue Q, which is one of my favorite musicals. So, we go to a really nice dinner, have a good start to the night, we get parked at the theater, and he hands me the tickets. I jokingly say, babe, these are for next week's show, just wanting to mess with him, knowing that he will be at college next week. Well, turns out my joke was right, and they were actually for the next week's show. He got really upset, and I felt like crap. So me being the headstrong little firecracker I am, march up to the ticket booth and ask if there are any tickets still available for that night's show. There were, so we end up getting to see the show, but don't get to sit next to each other. 2. Fast forward 4-ish years, Christmas Chanukah 2015. I am infamous for being really good at giving gifts. I put a lot of thought into them, and I give something that is heartfelt and memorable. So, my boyfriend, feeling that he has to match this, I always tell him that he doesn't, but whatever, decides that he's going to surprise me with a romantic getaway to Niagara Falls for my gift. Now, I had been working my butt off for months, and really needed a trip, so I was so happy about this. The thing was, neither of us had our passports, and the trip was in like a month, and the date couldn't be changed. So, I, of course, say to him this is on the American side, right? You did make extra sure of that, right? Which he replies yes, of course. Well, I was, of course, skeptical of this, so I asked to see the details of the trip, and wouldn't you know, our hotel was in beautiful Niagara Falls, Ontario. So, now we have to scramble to get our passports, which was a whole different comedy of errors. But, even though he can be a doofus, it's been almost 6 years, and I still love him more and more every day. I just ask him to leave the travel planning up to me. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.